Hey friends! So today I'm going to do the CGS Q&A that I've been promising for so long, but as they always do, things get busy and I haven't been able to film this for a while. I actually filmed it and then hated it, and that's people are texting me. Okay. So I actually filmed it and it was just like the nighttime and I was tired and I kept stuttering over my words, so I'm refilming it and hopefully this isn't too late for you guys. I know that like the time to accept is sometime in May and still mid-April, so I hope this gets out on time for it to be helpful for you to make some decisions. But I got a lot of questions from you guys, a lot of good questions, a lot of repeated questions, which is good because I kind of know which ones to spend the most time on, because it seems like there's a theme for the questions about CGS, which is great because you know, apparently there's something that's very unclear, and I will answer that here hopefully. Feel free to ask any more questions if I didn't answer any of this or your question wasn't on here. Feel free to reach out to me on Instagram and just DM me. I will answer your question immediately. Won't have to wait for a video. This is more for the people who are new and don't have me on anything and haven't gotten a chance to ask me a question. These are very common questions that I'm about to answer, so hopefully they will help. So first question was somebody who just asked like tips on the London semester in terms of length. So if it feels too long, if it feels too short, basically, if you end up really missing your family and friends from home, I would excuse me, I would say no. I would say London was the perfect amount of time. I honestly, although I would like to, if possible, I cannot picture myself spending any more, like a full semester in a country. I just feel like London was the perfect amount of time. I got to do so much that I wanted to do, but I still feel like I want to go back and explore on my own without school getting in the way. And by the end, I just felt ready to go home. Like, I felt satisfied. I felt like I loved my time here. Definitely want to go back, but it's time to go home. And it was hitting that point at the end. I was like, okay, I'm ready to go home and just like relax and take a vacation from my vacation. Although it went by quickly, it's not like it was too short. And it also wasn't too long because by the end I just felt ready. This one was a really popular question and it has to do with dorms, what I recommend, and can you only dorm with CGS students? So, okay, first of all, there was also a lot of questions, this person didn't ask this, but there was also a lot of questions about like roommate and building requests, so I'm just gonna explain that. The applying process is exactly the same as any other BU student. You can request a roommate, you can request multiple roommates, and then you put your buildings in order of preference. So you can request a specific building, you put it in the order of preference, and they basically go down the list based on availability. There's no like only rooming with CGS kids, there's no like special CGS building. No, you can request roommates and you can request housing, but keep in mind you're coming in at the middle of the year, so most likely you will be taking up dorms of people who either left BU, rooms that were never actually occupied, or people who are studying abroad. For example, I got a random roommate and her roommate had left BU, so I just kind of took her place. The housing application for January is just like, okay, request roommate, put your order of preference, and then boom, you get an email saying where you live. Whereas in the fall, it's like you see a list of places that are open and you choose one. So you immediately know where you're living, if that makes sense. Did I answer everything? Yes, requests, CGS kids. Oh, where I recommend? I personally lived in West and I highly recommend West. I loved it. It has kind of a homey feel. The mailroom, the dining hall are all right there, as well as like a late night dining place. It's like a BU restaurant that you can use your dining points on. It's not like you have to pay your own money. So it's nice because it opens after the dining hall. So if you're hungry at 3 in the morning while you're writing a paper that's due the next day, you can just hop in there and the food's really good. Yeah, and it's the closest to CGS. So personally, I would recommend West for incoming freshmen. It's just nice because although none of the dorms are like only freshmen, which I think coming into college is something a lot of people think, that some dorms are only for freshmen. I actually think that some schools do that, but BU doesn't. You can live anywhere at any year, but most people when they're freshmen live either in Warren or West. Warren, I'm not going to say anything because I've never lived there, but from the feedback I've gotten from people who have, it's apparently not the nicest on the inside. It's been compared to a prison as well as a mental hospital to me personally, to my friends that have lived there. But the perk of that is that Warren is right in between campus. So you know, BU has East and West, and it's right in the middle. So if you have classes, like, you're gonna be at the same distance from everything, basically. So that's kind of the perk of Warren, whereas West is all the way in West. So you're gonna have a pretty far walk if you have some classes in East. As well as in East, you're gonna have a pretty far walk if you have classes in West. But I would say for STEM majors, at least, most of your classes are going to be in East, and I feel like East is actually pretty popular. Like, the more upper class you go, I feel like that's kind of where people end up settling, because of course that's where the brownstones are, which a lot of people, they're really cute, people love them, that's where most people want to live. And East is like where, like, East is right next to Kenmore, which is just a nice area, and there's a lot of like eating places. There's a lot of eating places everywhere, but like East just has kind of a different vibe. I feel like that's where most people end up living. Like, I live in an off-campus apartment in the West area, and I'm always that one friend that has to travel to my other friends because everybody's in East. But for now, don't worry about that. Freshman year, like, West is a great place to be. People have also said, a lot of people phrase a question to me like, I'm this major, and I've heard that that's really hard to do in CGS. Like, can I get your thoughts on that? I don't really know about that. Like, personally, I'm a physical therapy major, which is like related to, you know, it's like the medical field. And I have had absolutely no trouble in CGS, so I just feel like if I'm not having trouble, like, I don't see how any other major could. Like, for example, a lot of my friends are pre-med and they're just fine in CGS. Like, if you can do it in pre-med, I'm pretty sure you can do it in any other track. I have not heard of anyone that is not graduating on time. I haven't heard of anyone really that's having problems, at least with their one major. The biggest recommendation I would give for you there is type in CGS pathways on Google, and then when you go on that, click on your year and then click on your major, and you will see a mock 4-year schedule based on your major, and you'll see you're gonna take all your classes, fill all your requirements, and graduate on time, graduate in 4 years. And that thing, like, was a lifesaver for me because I am basically following that schedule exactly. You don't need to follow it exactly. There are certain classes you can take later, certain classes you can take earlier, depending on your situation. But I am pretty much following mine exactly, and it was so helpful for me to see because I already have my 4 years at BU structured, and I know what I'm going to be doing and what classes I'm going to be taking. That's another thing. You'll see your classes and you can click on them and see exactly what they're about. There's a little description on there, and yeah, that's my biggest recommendation for that. CGS is set up to graduate on time. It's not set up for you to be behind. That's not what it's for. That's not what it does. Another question is, do I feel like CGS wasted my time or money? And that's a totally valid question because I feel like when you first hear of CGS, it kind of sounds like that. It kind of sounds like a waste of time. But actually, it's quite the opposite. So in college, there are these credits that you have to fulfill that are classes unrelated to your major that everybody has to do if they want to graduate. So it's kind of like high school. Like, in high school, I remember, like, everybody had to take biology their freshman year. Everybody had to take chemistry their sophomore year. Like, it's like that. There are certain classes that you have to take, certain credits. Credits are basically classes that you have to take to graduate. Everybody has to take these. And CGS automatically, based on your schedule that they set up for you, covers all those credits. They're called hub credits. I forget if I mentioned that. But from what I've heard from other people, the whole hub credits thing is actually very frustrating because you have to, like, look through classes, research them, make sure they fill those credits for you. You have to see how many you have left, how many you've used up. And it's like, I didn't have to research a single thing. Like, those credits are already covered for me as long as I, like, do the classes that I'm supposed to. So that's, like, one less, like, thing off my plate. Like, it's less stressful. And CGS classes actually cover more of those credits than one normal class would. So it's like taking less classes for more credits. So I absolutely don't think it was a waste of time at all. I'm graduating in 4 years and I have those hub credits done and over with. And the skills that I've learned from CGS are actually very valuable skills, and I've noticed them in myself, just like time management, study skills, just my writing. Obviously, I hate writing, but my writing has totally improved since I came into college. So another question, concerns about whether CGS students are looked down upon by other students. I would say no, at least in my experience. I feel like CGS students make fun of themselves. It's kind of like an inside joke among us, and it's really funny. It's totally fine. But I've never met somebody who, like, judged me for being in CGS or for coming in January. If anything, everybody's really curious because everybody knows that you go to London, and that's usually what they ask when you tell them. Tips on being a freshman. My number one tip is make friends as soon as possible, but especially CGS friends. Get tight with those people because those are the people you're going to be with for 2 years. Like, they're going to be in your classes for 2 years of your time in college, and they're the people that you go to London with. So make sure you find your little group, you know, and be intentional about going out with people. Like, make plans with them. Like, you be the one tasked to make plans and, like, to set up hangouts and stuff, because I've talked about this before, but one mistake I made was, like, go straight into my work in college. That's what I was focused on. I wanted to get those good grades. And by the time I was like, I should make friends, it was like everybody already had their group already, and it's not like nobody is welcoming. CGS students are amongst, like, the most welcoming, accepting people I've ever met, but it was like that insecurity didn't let me, like, just go put myself out there. And I did have friends, but I had individual friends. I didn't have that, like, group that just, like, I fit into, and that was definitely, like, a big insecurity for me freshman year. So that's my biggest advice. Be intentional about making friends with people and hanging out with people, and make sure you make those friendships quickly, and especially CGS students, because they're going to be the people that understand you the most, and, you know, just what college is like, you know, because you have a kind of a different experience than the average college student, which is great and really cool. This is a general BU question about student life. Student life is great. There's a ton of clubs at BU, and that's another thing. People always get very concerned about clubs. There's a club fair at the beginning of every semester, and also in a semester in general, people are constantly dropping in and out. So clubs are not set up for you to only know what's going on if you've been there since the beginning. Clubs are actually set up to be welcoming to people coming in at any stage. So don't worry about that. You will not be behind at all. Auditions go on at the beginning of every semester. Clubs basically restart at the beginning of every semester, so don't worry at all. Other things about student life. We're in the city, so people are constantly going out into the city. The T is right there, which is super convenient. You can get anywhere in Boston on the T. And people do like to hang out in, like, the common areas a lot, I would say. I got this question yesterday, I believe. but it was like whether people hang out more in their dorms or in the common areas. Absolutely the common areas. There's the GSU, the HTC, there's Butte Beach when there's nice weather. People love hanging out around campus. Are you allowed to go to other countries during London, and what is it like? Yes, you are basically allowed to do anything you want in London as long as you don't miss class. You cannot miss class, but after school you can do whatever you want. I went to Paris, Spain, Scotland. I tried to go to Italy, but then there was this airport strike and like this heat wave, like we couldn't get out. I was stuck on a plane for like 4 hours. It was insane, but you can absolutely go out to travel. And what's London like? Amazing. I can just sum it up to that. There's so many things I want to say about London, and I could say, but just know that London is amazing. I feel like hands down the best experience of my life. I met my closest friends to this day in London, and that's where I found like my group that I didn't find in the spring. London is amazing. If you want to know more about London, let me know. I would love to make a video on London, but that needs its whole separate video. What did I do during my gap semester, and is it weird coming in January? I worked 2 jobs during my gap semester, spent time with family. It was amazing. It was some much needed time. I had a very difficult senior year. I was going through some stuff over the summer, and it was some time that I definitely needed to rebuild myself, find myself, all those things. It was amazing. I saved up so much money, and I got to do whatever I wanted in London because it was my money, and it was amazing. Oh, is it weird coming in January? No. No, it actually wasn't. There's nothing that you are behind in, to be quite honest with you. The only thing you would be behind in coming in is just knowing where the buildings are, and that's as easy as Googling what building you're in and then pressing Google Maps and walking to the area. That's the only thing I would say you will be behind in. It's not a huge deal. People are still freshmen. They don't know what they're doing, even in the spring. And I don't know, you have the comfort of having other students coming in to January with you, so friends are not a problem at all. To be honest, you will make friends so quickly through CGS. I had a pretty smooth transition, and I really didn't feel like I missed out on anything, because you just don't. Everything restarts every semester. Everybody has new classes. Everybody's going to different buildings. Every like activity starts over again. If there was an activity in the fall, there will most likely be the exact same activity in the spring. Don't worry about that. You will not be behind in anything. So people are wondering how you figure out the session 1 and session 2 in London. This might be kind of a complicated explanation, but when you register for classes, each CGS class has multiple professors. It's just like high school. There's one class, multiple people teaching it, the same class. So depending on what group of professors you have, there will be a team letter, and you'll see that team letter when you register for classes. Now, depending on what team letter you have depends on whether you go to session 1 or 2. And session 1 is very high in demand. If you have a later register time, because that's how it works, you get a registration time, like a time slot, and if you get a later time, you're most likely going to session 2. That's what happened to me. I wanted to be session 1, but the classes were all full by the time I registered, but I don't regret it. I loved session 2. Thinking about it, I honestly think I preferred it. I would have preferred it over the summer 1 session. Someone was concerned about the idea that like CGS is almost like repeating high school for 2 years. And that's kind of how it felt like to me, but I just want to stress that the level of difficulty, the workload is definitely higher. This is a college level course. Like I promise you, you're not going to be like wasting your money or like resources. You're getting the same experience as any other college student. The thing that makes it similar to high school is just like in high school you are forced to take one class of each subject. Like you have to take a science, a history, an English, blah blah blah. So that's kind of why CGS feels very high school-ish, because you know your classes are basically like rhetoric is basically English, social science is basically history, humanities is like philosophy, and natural science, which you will take your second year, is biology. So that's what makes it feel very high school-y, as well as just the level of support that your professors give you during office hours. Like when I was in high school, my teachers were like very involved, very ready to give support. That's not something that you see in an average college class. Like you'll see that in your other classes related to your major. Like your professor won't even know like your first name or your last name for that. Like they won't know you at all. They might recognize your face. And you know, office hours obviously available. They are also super supportive, but you'll see a major difference in your CGS professors and your just major professors. Like, they genuinely care about you and want you to do well. Another question, which I thought was a really good question, is like how you would describe the typical BU student. I think that, you know, BU students are like very diverse. I love the diversity at BU. There's like, you know, I've met people from literally all over the world. And I think that's great. I love that. I love being like in a place where I can meet somebody and like learn about their culture and all that. Maybe 90% of the people I have met are just like the sweetest, kindest, funny, like witty, just willing to work together and understanding that like we all don't want to do this and don't want to be here, but like we all want to do well. Those are at least the people that I've met, like friends and not friends. Of course, there's always going to be people that you just don't mesh well with and you wouldn't necessarily be their friend. Like there's always going to be people who are rude and mean or whatever, but overall, just people are just so kind. And I don't know, this is from somebody who's been in classes and clubs and, you know, hanging out with people that I don't know either, because that happens too. And seriously, that's what I get from like the average BU student. Everybody's just like so kind, welcoming, accepting. I've met some amazing people. Somebody was worried about the campus vibe since BU's in the city and it's very urban. So BU is kind of interesting because it's a straight line. It's not like a rounded like campus with all the little buildings. It's literally a straight line. If you walked it, it would probably be like a 30-minute walk. No, not probably. I have made the walk, obviously. It's, yeah, probably 30 minutes, even more. And then the other side is like, the other side is like restaurants, cafes, actually some other stuff too, like other school buildings and like housing are on the other side. But in, you know, the campus feel was definitely something that I was worried about coming in. But to be honest, BU has a campus feel for me personally. I love the way it's set up and I do think it has a campus feel. So I think that's it. I think those were the major questions. I did get a lot of what I said was like multiple people asking me. I think those are the main questions, the main ones people had, which totally makes sense. I feel like the biggest themes were like dorms, is it worth it? Making friends. Dorms is normal, making friends easy. Is it worth it? Absolutely. Guys, it's worth it, okay? As somebody who despises writing is not my thing. I was really looking forward to not doing that after high school. Personally, London and just the friendships I've made, the experiences I've had, and being at BU in general, absolutely worth it for me. And that should be comforting, I feel like, to you as a person who hates writing and doesn't necessarily consider herself good at it. I am surviving. I'm completely fine. Yeah, so if you guys have any other questions, please I can't speak. Please feel free to leave them, to comment or to find me on Instagram. AshleyMBG is my Instagram. You guys can DM me. Yeah, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more of these kinds of videos, more CGS videos. I definitely want to get a London video out there for you guys if you're interested. Hope everybody's safe, everybody's families are safe, and you know, that you're mentally, emotionally, spiritually, everything, physically healthy. Yeah, I hope everyone's doing well, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.